Today, the Golden State Warriors announced plans to build a new basketball arena in a part of San Francisco that once seemed off limits. That's because an elevated, two-tiered freeway, much like our Alaskan Way Viaduct, once ran along that stretch of waterfront. But not anymore. King 5's Joe Fryer traveled to San Francisco to give us a glimpse of what could happen in Seattle once the viaduct is gone.
The city by the bay is known for its water, but is legendary for its bread.
You know, it's amazing. You have to come to San Francisco to see something like this. We don't have anything like that where we're from.
When hungry tourists arrive in San Francisco, their noses tend to guide them to Boudin Bakery.
It's like we never saw bread being baked, right?
In this part of town, sourdough is not the only thing on the rise.
We never dreamt that it would be what it is today.
Directly south of the bakery is the Embarcadero, a busy, vibrant stretch of restaurants and shops along the waterfront.
It's just a fabulous place to spend time in San Francisco now.
But it wasn't always this way.
It used to be someplace no one went. It was just a lot of homeless down here, not a lot of visitors. It was just a freeway.
Blame it on the elevated double-decker freeway that once ran through this neighborhood.
Absolutely. It was an absolute physical wall.
Like Seattle's Alaskan Way Viaduct, the Embarcadero freeway was built in the 1950s.
And it was controversial at the time.
So controversial, a freeway revolt kept it from becoming as big as originally planned.
There was more than a handful of San Franciscans who wanted it taken down.
But for decades, efforts to get rid of the freeway failed, blocked by businesses concerned no one could get to them. Then in 1989, the Loma Prieta earthquake made the choice for them.
And the rest, in a sense, is history.
Doug Wright was deputy mayor back then. He says despite protests, then Mayor Art Agnos chose to take down the damaged Embarcadero freeway for good.
The position that Mayor Agnos took, of course, was pretty strong and pretty brave politically.
The freeway went straight down the Embarcadero.
Al Falke's waterfront restaurant sat just yards from the freeway.
Actually, it wasn't bad when it was up. It was just horrible when it came down.
He says the demolition scared away many of his customers.
Well, it was almost a disaster. It almost put me and everybody else out of business.
But once the project was done, the waterfront gradually came to life.
I think it's good, and I'm glad I survived it, but I wouldn't want to go through it again.
The Renaissance was anchored by the renovated ferry building, now a vital transit hub, an iconic image for the Embarcadero.
It's become a civic center on the waterfront. It's more than just something for visitors and tourists. It's really something that San Franciscans have embraced.
Mike Olivia says about 90% of his pedicab business comes from the waterfront.
If the freeway were still here, we just wouldn't have a business. Yeah.
And most feel they wouldn't have a ballpark either.
Giants May edition of the program!
In 2000, the San Francisco Giants moved into a new stadium directly south of the Embarcadero.
Because of the ballpark, they remodeled all the buildings around here, including mine.
And on the north end, Boudin Bakery poured money into a huge renovation, building a 25,000 square foot facility. The company says sales here are now 10 times greater.
And we would have never done that if that freeway was still there.
But what's truly fascinating is what happened to the 70,000 vehicles that once used this stretch of the freeway each day. When the elevated highway here disappeared, it was not replaced by an underground tunnel, just a simple city boulevard, 2 lanes in each direction, and a streetcar line right down the middle.
And a lot of people were against it at first because they thought it was going to be so hard to get around.
While traffic today is not perfect,
Certainly there are times when we have backups.
many here feel it works.
It flows pretty good. It gets a little backed up occasionally, but it's never that bad.
About 40,000 vehicles a day now travel this stretch of the Embarcadero. Many others abandoned their traditional cars and jumped onto the old-fashioned streetcars, which average 20,000 riders a day. Others took to their bikes or buses, and a few stuck with their cars but skipped the Embarcadero.
They found alternative routes that were more direct, perhaps slightly slower.
However, the experts in San Francisco would not recommend that Seattle skip its tunnel because there's a big difference between the two cities. You see, the Alaskan Way Viaduct is a major throughway for drivers traveling north and south, whereas the Embarcadero freeway was more of an on-off ramp to other major roads, so it's a bit easier to live without.
My guess is that Seattle would have a harder time trying to meet that need.
But everything else happening along San Francisco's waterfront looks rather appetizing.
Just go for it. Tear that thing down and you'll love it. Palm trees and whatever grows in Seattle is a lot better than a double-decker freeway.
Yeah, you're right.
A recipe for success that Seattle may someday try to steal.
Right, that would be wonderful. Wouldn't that be something?
In San Francisco, Joe Fryer, King 5 News.
Development along Seattle's waterfront is currently scheduled to begin in 2016 after the deep bore tunnel is finished and the viaduct is taken down. And that's assuming the aging seawall is replaced.